Full Bloom is brought to you in part by the following. Welcome to Full Bloom, the award-winning show that celebrates life. Here's your host, Zita Christian.
Hi everyone, welcome to Full Bloom. I'm Zita Christian. My guest tonight is going to talk about a relatively new area of medical research, something that can have pretty big implications for all of us. Please welcome Dr. Jonathan Selzer. Jonathan, thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you so much, Zita. It's a real pleasure to be here.
You know, I knew when we met X number of years ago that our paths were going to cross again, and I'm so glad that we finally worked out a date, and I'm grateful that you came all the way from Long Island so you could be on the show with us.
Oh, my pleasure. The folks in Long Island don't miss me, be sure.
Okay. Well, I do want to say now a little bit about your background. You're a biologist.
Yes.
And you are representing something called BEMER Vascular Therapy in America. So what is BEMER?
Well, BEMER is a new kind of medical therapy. It's actually a information therapy. What it does is it's bringing a signal into the body that has a meaning. It's like a code. You have a code that means something to somebody, and you want to transport it to that person so that that person can work with it. And BEMER is A, that signal, and B, it's the mode of transportation to bring that signal into the body where it can have its benefits.
So it's both a signal and the delivery system.
And the delivery system.
Okay.
In this case, the signal has been worked out empirically in the laboratory over the last 15 years in an institute in Berlin for microcirculation. And what they did was they would take the signal and they tweak it a little bit and see what kind of effect that has. And if they had some improvement, they work on that direction. So gradually over 15 years, they come up with this signal that actually has these great effects in the body. And the transportation part of it is the energy that brings the signal into the body is using pulses of electromagnetic energy, which are very, very low level, actually lower than the ambient amount of electromagnetic energy that we're exposed to just by being here on the planet.
Okay.
And this brings the signal into the body where it can work.
When I was on the website, because I have to say I got all excited that when we worked out a date and you could be on the show, and I went on the website and I started looking around, and this whole idea about what this apparatus, what the code and the delivery system, what it can do for the blood vessels. And I thought, I'm thinking about all my friends who are having, several issues. I'm thinking about issues I'm dealing with myself. I'm looking at all the things on the website that says it's good for this and good for this and good for this. And I thought, I have so much I want to ask you. But when we start with this whole idea about, I saw the little video that was on the website, and it had about the circulation in these tiny, tiny little capillaries. And at first I thought, well, they're so tiny, how can that possibly have any big effect? We're not talking about like major arteries or something. So explain something about that for me.
Well, there's the heart, and the heart breaks down. You have these arteries coming out in great big vessels, and they get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until you get to what they call the microcirculation, or the capillaries. And it's in these very finest, tiniest little tubes, as you say. And it is at this point where all the exchange takes place, where in the lungs, the blood cells take on oxygen and give off carbon dioxide. And down at the cellular level, it's bringing the nutrients to the cells, taking away the waste. It's bringing the oxygen in and taking out the carbon dioxide. So what we're doing, that's what's keeping the cells alive. I mean, you can live a long time without nutrients, but you can't live very long without oxygen. And so bringing that oxygen to the cells, that's the most important thing. Now, when you're young, very young, this works very well. And the older you get, the slower that microcirculation is. Now, if you think about it, 75% of our circulatory system is made up of this microcirculation. Now that doesn't really sound like much, but if you take all these little capillaries and put them end to end into a very long tube, that tube would be long, so long that it would circle the earth 3 times. And
Oh my
each one of
gosh.
us. And now think about, well, we have a heart that's pumping blood through all those capillaries. It's a Herculean task.
No kidding.
So what our bodies have developed are extra pumps that help the heart push the blood through all those capillaries. And what it is, it's kind of like a peristaltic pump, which is what we have in our esophagus.
Constrict,
It
expand,
constricts and expands.
Like
Every
a boa
time it
constrictor.
yeah, exactly. And every time it constricts, it pushes the blood through a little bit more. And this is called vasomotion. And this
Okay.
happens primarily, and not the capillaries themselves, but just before you get to the capillaries, the arterioles and the venules. Those are the parts of the tubes just before the capillaries, because the capillaries don't have muscles. But so you have all this pumping action, pushing the blood through, and that's what keeps us going. Now, when you're very young, that vasomotion happens 3 or 4 times a minute. You get to be my age, or you
My
start.
age?
Or I didn't want to say.
That's okay. I'm still here. I'm grateful.
Or you're dealing with a chronic illness or stress. Well, the rate of vasomotion decreases tremendously to maybe 1 time every 10 minutes.
Oh, you're kidding.
So, yeah. No,
That's a huge difference.
It's a huge difference, from 3 to 5 times a minute to once every 10 minutes. And so you can imagine what kind of effect that's going to have on your microcirculation. It slows down, and so all those cells are being underfed, undernourished. They're not getting the oxygen they need to function. They're not getting rid of the toxins that they need, that are toxins that are part of our daily metabolism. So the whole system starts to slow down. The cells aren't functioning. They're not doing what they're supposed to do. And then you have this cascading effect all the way from cells to tissues to organs and to organisms. So that's when you start getting symptoms. And that's when you start feeling all the effects of diseases that are associated with this impaired microcirculation.
Well, it sounds at first blush that everything would be affected then by the microcirculation. I'm thinking, geez, well, is this like fingertips getting cold? Is this somebody who has diabetes and the blood isn't circulating to the extremities? Is this somebody who's who's had a heart attack and has a problem? All of this is related.
It's all related because every cell in our body, every single cell is perfused with blood, which means the blood brings the nutrient. It's bathed in blood through the capillaries. Every cell.
Okay.
And they all need the same thing. They all need food of some sort, and they all need oxygen. And they need to get rid of the carbon dioxide and the waste that they produce.
I want to ask you, because I saw this on the website and I thought, my first thought was that this is just too good to be true. But you're here, so I'm going to ask. Okay, so it mentions that the BEMER can be used for, I'll just throw out a list: backache, insomnia, diabetes, burnout, immune system, which I think is a biggie.
Oh, yes.
Deacidification, free radicals.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I think I have to explain a little bit how the BEMER works.
Okay.
Because we didn't get to that yet. So that vasomotion slows down once every 10 minutes. Well, the BEMER sends us this signal that we were talking about, the code that goes into your body and tells those veins and arteries, well, you've got to start vasomoting again. You've got to start going back to that pumping action.
Let's all vasomote.
Let's vasomote.
Okay.
So what it does is, by doing that, it's pushing the blood back through to the cells. So what you're doing is restoring the body to its state of health and where it can regulate itself. And that's the whole thing. And before we go into those, I want to make it clear that the BEMER is not healing anything. The BEMER is returning your body to this state of homeostasis, of health and well-being, where it can self-regulate itself and heal itself.
Okay.
It's not the BEMER.
That's a good distinction.
And that is a good distinction, because that's why it has that's why we're having trouble with in convincing the medical profession, because doctors, they want to cure, they want to heal a specific problem, a symptom.
Right.
And the doctors look at a symptom and they go to organs, and then the organs, and then they say, okay, we need to treat that with a medication or some sort of procedure. Well, the BEMER works completely different than that. It works on all the cells in your whole body. So what we're doing is, throughout your whole body, is restoring it to this state of well-being and health. By teaching it, teaching it again, how to vasomote.
Like saying to the body, remember when you were a kid and everything flowed through so smoothly and you felt so good and you had energy and you could sleep well at night, and then everything got clogged up, and now if we make everything move faster,
yes,
you're naturally going to feel better because your body's working the way it was supposed to work.
It's supposed to work, exactly. And that's what we're doing. We're retraining your body, and this is the signal. It's this invisible signal that goes into your body via, whether it be electromagnetic impulses or light, goes into your body and tells those veins and arteries, vasomote.
All right, Jonathan, now we've got stuff here on the table. I want to talk a little bit about this. We have this big old mat over here, and only because, and only because we, for space reasons, we did not set up the big table and put the mat on it, and I'm not lying down on that table. Maybe there are other reasons as well. But we also have this. This is the smaller form, right?
That's one of the smaller applicators, as they call it, the D-pad.
Okay.
Now, so what it's doing is, theoretically, what you do is you lie down on the mat.
Okay.
And the treatment takes 8 minutes. It's only 8 minutes.
8 minutes. Is it like every day?
Optimally, you do it twice a day, because one treatment lasts between 12 and 18 hours.
Okay.
So if you want complete benefit, then you have to do it twice a day.
Okay.
So what most people do is they'll lie on it first thing in the morning when they wake up, and they'll lie on it when they go to bed. Now, we're not, as you say, we're not going to set that up right now because it's a little bit awkward on this table.
Yes.
But what we do have is this small applicator, and this is going to work exactly the same way. Now, you may not even feel anything because it's very, we're going to put it on a very low intensity for you today.
Okay.
So I'm going to put it on here, intensity 1.
Is this right?
That's perfect.
Okay.
Now I'm going to press start. And now it's running. It takes 8 minutes. Okay. Now you don't feel anything. So how do you know it's even working? Well, the company is clever enough to know that most people are a little suspicious. Mm-hmm. So they've come up with this little signal here. This is going to, if you hold it over something, it doesn't make any sound, but it actually can pick up those signals, and you can see it's working. So you're getting the signal. You can't hear it. You can't hear the actual signal itself. All you hear is that noise because it's so fast, very, very rapid pulses and impulses and frequencies and amplitudes and all those sort of things that I don't understand.
Okay. So for the next 8 minutes, I'm getting a treatment.
You're getting a BEMER treatment.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, what you may notice, if you had aches in your shoulders.
Actually, I do.
Well, so let's after the show, not during the show, but afterwards, you can tell me how it worked for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, this is cool. Mm-hmm. This is very cool. I have so much I want to go through. We'll probably come back to some of these things.
Okay.
But let me just ask too, is this something that can also be used for varicose veins?
Well, because it's working on the microcirculation. It's opening up the circulation. You're relieving a lot of that blood pressure that's building up that can be part of the scenario with varicose veins. I don't believe it's going to reduce them, but it would maybe help them from getting worse.
All right. What has there been any work done on or any research about this effect on gut flora?
You know, that's an interesting question because the gut flora is an integral part of our digestion, but more importantly, of our immune systems.
Yeah.
So it's a really good question. Unfortunately, I'm not aware of any studies that would approach that question right now. I mean, it does help the immune system in many, many ways. And
right.
you can actually see how the white blood cells move up along the vessels. It has an important effect on bacterial infections and yeast infections by changing. You talked about deacidification.
Yeah.
Those organisms prefer an acidic milieu. Well, if you get rid of that acidity, then it helps your immune system fight and battle off those invaders.
But the BEMER isn't the code is not saying do this, this, and this specifically. The BEMER is saying to all the little capillaries, work at your peak performance. And so by their own nature, that's what they're going to do. Is that
exactly
right?
That's exactly it.
Okay.
And there are many mechanisms involved that some of them are a little bit better understood than others. We know that it works on the vasomotion, but it also affects the nitric oxide that's in the body. Nitric oxide makes the blood vessels a little bit more flexible. It helps with the blood flow as well. Not so much in the capillaries, but in the other areas. So it increases your body's ability to produce nitric oxide.
So if somebody has, what's the word? When you have diabetes and the little nerves die.
Oh, yes, neuropathy.
That's it,
Yeah.
yes.
No, people, and I've met people who have had neuropathy for years. They go on the BEMER, and their body begins to heal, and they begin to feel the sensations in their legs again.
Does this? I don't know if the body does this at all, but does it like grow new little capillaries? Can this?
Well, no, you don't need to grow. We're not growing new. That's another medical term that we won't get into. But we don't need to, because the capillaries are there, and all we need to do is get the blood to flow through them again.
Like wake up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
What about brain health? And let's take that one first.
Okay, brain
I
health.
have to have you back. So brain health.
Well, brain health is really interesting because, again, oxygen and nutrients are critical for our brains to function, just like everything else. So even if your head is not on the BEMER, this nitric oxide that's being produced and the signal throughout your body is actually helping perfuse your brain cells with oxygen and with nutrients. So your brain cells are going to react just like all the others. They're going to say, I'm happy, I'm going to think better.
Okay.
So that's why for cognition, for brain health, there are studies going on right now with Alzheimer's. I don't know if there are any results yet, but theoretically it should help.
Well, with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, MS, all these kind of neurological diseases, I would see perhaps some serious breakthrough down the line.
Well, they're working on it, especially with MS, but not so much from the nerve angle, but from the energy angle, because with this process of bringing oxygenating the cells, you're helping your cells produce energy, and we need a lot of energy to keep going. I mean, just to maintain our own metabolism.
You know, I find that interesting that we're talking about how much energy the body needs. And you can't turn on almost any newscast during the weekend. You find there's some issue that's raised about how much electrical energy the world consumes, and how much more we're looking at various forms of energy, and yet that whole issue of energy is for our bodies as well. I think the whole thing is fascinating, all interconnected. So we were talking about treatment, and I'm getting one right now. So it just involves lying down and feeling these, or not even necessarily feeling, but knowing that the current is being stimulated. And you mentioned about 8 minutes.
Yeah, you're on a minute. I can't see right now. It's still running. It's still running. I think you've got 2 more minutes.
Well, are the results still effective if the treatment is not done twice a day?
Well, and that's a good question. No matter how many times you do it, you always get the benefit, and it lasts 12 to 18 hours.
Okay.
Okay, so if you're using this for example, in a salon, let's say for a facial or something
Yeah.
like that, okay? People all over the world, and this really is all over the world, are using it for facial salons, in naturopaths' offices, doctors' offices, particularly in Europe, because you get an effect. Okay, you're not doing it twice a day, every day, but you still get an effect. And in the facial salon, we've seen that the results are amplified. Whatever you're trying to do with the facial amplifies the effect. Same thing with a massage therapist. If you do a massage on someone who's lying on the mat, well, it's going to be so much more effective than without. I mean, or acupuncturists use it. Any kind of alternative medicine people use it. In this country, it's the school medicine that. You're 8 minutes
I'm
early.
cooked.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, this is great. Let me. And we only have about 10 minutes, so let me just ask: any side effects?
No, there are no side effects. Well, let me qualify that.
Okay.
Because what we're doing is we're stimulating that vasomotion, we're stimulating the cells, and detoxification.
Okay.
So if you go too fast, there are different intensities. You start at the lowest one, you gradually go up. If you start maybe at too high a level in the beginning, you're maybe detoxifying too fast. And then some people might get a little headache from it. But
I'm not going to turn into Xena Warrior Princess or
I
Superwoman
don't
or something.
Well, unless you really want to.
I was going to say it's not such a bad idea.
But that's the
Okay.
only problem. And there's nothing bad can happen from it.
What about if somebody's on blood thinners? Like say, my husband's had a heart attack. He's on blood thinners, and if this is, the strengthening that pulse so that it's, letting everything, all the blood run through faster, is that dangerous?
No, it's not going to be dangerous. In fact, it's advantageous because you can, at times, and of course together with your doctor,
Of course.
work out to reduce a regime that might reduce the amount of blood thinners you're taking. Like any medication, it has to get to the cells. Right? So to get to the cells, it has to go through the blood system. It has to go through those capillaries.
That's
if the
the root.
capillaries are blocked, well, you have to take an awful lot of medication to get to those little cells. If you have a good flow all the way to the cells, then you don't need as much of those medication in the blood thinners. There is only one counterindication for it, and that's people who have had organ transplants.
I was just going to ask about post-surgery, so that, yeah.
Oh, and post-surgery is great because it's healing properties.
But not organ transplants.
Well, the only thing is the immune system. You don't want to stimulate the immune system to reject the organs.
Oh.
So as long
Jonathan, that's amazing.
So as
Okay.
long as they're on the anti-rejection drugs, they should not be taking the BEMER. But afterwards, they can go on and use the BEMER. And it
Okay.
stimulates the healing throughout the whole body.
What about, do you have FDA approval for it yet?
The BEMER has, in this country, it's registered as a type 1 medical device, which means it's safe.
Okay.
Doesn't mean it's effective. All over the world, in Europe and South Africa, it's considered a medical device. NASA is using BEMER in their spacesuits because when you go up into the atmosphere and you suffer from those effects of weightlessness, they have loss of bone, they have loss of muscle.
Yeah.
They have built BEMER technology into the spacesuits to counteract that. So it's very mainstream.
Well, and things move slowly. I mean, I understand they move slowly, but the fact that the FDA has already approved it as a safe device is step one.
Right.
Okay.
We have applied for classification 2, class 2 medical device, and that should be ready within the next few months.
Okay. So you have mentioned that obviously this can be used with other kinds of healing modalities. And my daughter, who, and thank you for mentioning specifically the skincare, because she has a skincare clinic in Providence, and when she heard you were going to be on the show, she emailed, she said, be sure you ask this, be sure you ask this.
Okay, so we have to answer
so
the
that
questions.
was great. Yes, she wanted to know that. And she did ask, too, about is there a connection, or what is the connection with light therapy?
Well, and you can use BEMER in conjunction with any therapy, really.
Okay.
In fact, it even has its own light therapy apparatus. We have one here, but it works the same way. It's the same signal bringing the signal to the body. In the mat and the one you have on your shoulder, that's using electromagnetic waves to bring that signal. Well, the light does exactly the same thing, but with light.
But with light.
So it's not going deep into your body, it's specifically for the skin. So you can use it in conjunction with really any therapy. There are no side effects and no counter indications other than what I mentioned before.
All right, I'm going to, if you're just watching the show right now, let me just remind you that I'm speaking with Dr. Jonathan Selzer. He is a biologist and he is representing BEMER, B-E-M-E-R, which is a new medical technology. He's a representative in the United States. And I'm going to send people to your website and they can email you. We're showing the address so that they can get more information. But I had one question. If a person had this in their home, is it, I'm guessing the answer is multiple people can use it, but is that correct?
Oh, yes.
Like, okay.
Yeah, the whole family should be using it. The dog has hip displacement.
Yeah.
Make sure the dog goes on the BEMER twice a day. Cats love it. They just they'll sleep on it all day. They use it on horses with colic. And they use it on elephants. I mean, they've done studies on just about everything. I know probably not snakes yet, but
This is just amazing. The whole idea of microcirculation. Is there something that we do that contributes to the slowing down other than just the fact that we age? But is there something we do that contributes to the slowing so that we can like not do that? Like, is there anything with lifestyle or something like that?
Of course, all lifestyle changes. You need to have a good, healthy lifestyle, no matter what you do. Even if you're taking the BEMER is not going to replace a good diet and a lack of exercise or any of those good things. But you need to have a well-balanced diet, no matter what you do. BEMER helps. It helps, but apart from that, I think you still have to do what you're supposed to do.
Do you get feedback from people? You know, people who are using it. Do they come to you afterwards, or like do you need like a tune-up of the machine? Does something have to like be recalibrated, or?
No, the machine they last decades. They really do. We've known. They've been out on the market for 15 years.
Oh, you're kidding, that long?
In Europe, I tell you, they're so much far ahead of us.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I mean, they use it in hospitals. They use it in neonatal premature baby wards to stimulate the oxygenation of the cell. But no, there's nothing that you need to do. You get the unit, and you can actually connect two mats to it, so two people can use it at the same time.
Matching
his and hers.
Jonathan, I'm getting the signal that we're out of time, and I have to say this flew by, and I knew it would, and I thank you so very, very much for being on the show. And I also want to thank my FB crew, and I want to say to you in the viewing audience, I say this every week, and I mean it sincerely, I do value time, and I'm particularly grateful that you chose to spend another evening with me. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Full Bloom is brought to you in part by the following: